All right, welcome back to Corvette Revival. This 1979 C3 automatic with a built 350, as you can tell, is in need some interior love, and that's what we're going to do on this video. We're going to take the interior from looking like this, faded, kind of crappy and crusty. We're going to fix some things we found along the way, and then we're going to get the entire thing back to how it should be, a beautiful Firethorn red. We did find some water, and we addressed that, and we also found a lot of faded carpet just from the sun. Now, this carpet and these seats are not that old, but you put a car out in the Florida sun like this, and you're going to have the same problem. Using Firethorn Red from SEM, and it is such an easy product to apply. You just need to start building it. You can see I started a little bit here, but I'm going to go through exactly how I did it once I get this seat out and we start spraying some dye. So go ahead and follow along as I transform the interior of this old car. All right, so as you can see, the back is not completely dyed. You got to let it set up for a little bit and continue to build. So that's going to be a process. Right now, though, I've got to get these lap belts out so that way I can get this carpet removed so I can, one, let it dry, clean it, all those things, but also see if there's any rust that has formed underneath from the water being here. So trying to get an old, nasty, rusted-ish bolt out. I've got a wrench and a ratchet, and I'm trying to break it free here. There we go. Now I got it at this point. A little bit of leverage goes a long way. Now there's really only a couple parts of the car that actually hold the carpet on. One you just saw was the rear seat belt mounts. The other is this door sill trim, and this is a much thinner piece than the early C3s had. Held on by 4 screws, polished stainless steel, and so they typically will just get some fine scratches on them. I haven't seen them rust, obviously, ever. The screws could if they have the wrong screws in them, but just taking this off is really going to release the bulk of the carpet. And we still have the front kick plate now to remove. It's just held on by 1 screw, so I'm going to go ahead and get this off so I can clean it and then ultimately dye it as well. But this overall is in good shape. And before the comments start coming in, I am going to go through and look at the lower half of the birdcage as well as the upper half when I pull the upper trim off. But look at this. Second car in a row that somebody has used a wire nut in the center console area. This one is for the cigarette lighter, but who does that?
Furthermore, there's some paper towels up here just in case you needed help getting the fire going. All right, let's get this carpet out. Let's see what we're working with here. It's only damp in the back. All right. You know what? I think we got to this just in time. I'll be able to clean this up, paint it, but we did. We got to this just in time. Wow. It's all pretty solid in here. Some rust, but yeah, we definitely, I think if this would have sat for a couple more months, there definitely would have been a hole there. Yeah, that's just surface. All right, so that's the driver's side carpet out. I'm gonna have to pressure wash it.
Love a good pressure washing. All right, I'm just taking the passenger seat out right now. I want to check underneath it, make sure that carpet isn't damp, and I'm not going to pull everything out because looking up underneath it, there's no holes, but I just want to see kind of what I'm dealing with here on the passenger side before I decide how I'm going to move forward. Completely dry over here, which is good. Yeah, there's a little bit of surface rust that I'll deal with at one point, but nothing like the other side. You can tell it has gotten wet at one point, but not recently. The other one was just soaked, but a lot to do still. So I'm going to dye this in place just to avoid having all the carpet out at this moment. And we're going to get back to it. But first, let's go look at the driver's side. All right, so you can see at one point somebody did do something here. There's some old black spray paint. I doubt that came from the factory like that. They didn't just go, we'll just spray here, not connect these lines and just let it be. So this had been an issue before, which look, a C3, especially the later ones, the metal floor pans, this is a problem. This is a problem in many of them. So before you go buying one, really look underneath them and feel from the carpet if it has carpet in it, just to see what the floor pan is like. But as you can see, not on video, but I got a lot of the rear dyed. It's looking pretty good. The car's back in the shop now. I still have to work on the armrests and the door cards, and we're going to get to the door cards in just a few minutes. But I just wanted you to see what they look like before. We're getting close. I think I'm going to do another couple passes on the rear, but we've got the side panels off, and the inside all in all is pretty good. This is all new. All these the black plastics. Not loving the shift knob. Gonna have to come up with a solution for that, especially once the whole interior is fresh looking. All right, so if you look on the floorboard, you see that kind of white-ish substance. That's the rust inhibitor. So I'm letting that work. I wire wheeled it. I put that down, and once that's dry, it's obviously going to change color, and then I'll come back with a good epoxy truck bed liner. So if water does get in there, it's going to hang out there rather than touching the metal. At least that's the thought. Moving over to the passenger door, I went ahead and taped everything off except for this area, and you can see it's got a mix of some black paint, some red drippy paint, and this I am going to clean up, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit it with some SEM trim black. Just because, one, I'm going to use this a lot, especially in some of the under hood areas, and I want it to be one cohesive feel when you look at what I've done here on the front of the door, and then up into the cowl and into the engine bay. And this stuff dries amazingly quick, so I'm just going to leave the door open for now, and we're going to start working on dyeing the seat. As you can see, the door card has already been dyed, but we're going to get that seat looking good and matching the door card. So looking here, you can see there's obviously the slides, the tracks, if you will, and the knob, and then we've got all the plastic pieces on the side that really hold the cushions in. Those have some surface rust. I'm going to end up replacing those, so I'm not too worried about that, but I do want to tape off this area right here, so that way on the hinges it's also not red, because that would just look like crap. Just looking at the seat in front of the door card, you can see it's nasty. All right, so we've got the tracks that we're gonna come back and we're gonna paint those black, as well as the seat slider and knob. That'll be black, but I want to make sure those are protected, especially that chrome area. But the seat alone, you can see just how faded. It's like 3 different shades of red. That's how faded it is. So we are going to fix that in this video. I've got some leaves in here. I'm going to wipe it down. We're going to vacuum it as well, but I'm just trying to get as much loose as I can, and I'll come back with the vacuum, get all that little grit out of there, and then we're going to start the dyeing process. All right, so at this point, my camera had died, but in the meantime, I vacuumed it as best I could. But we're going to start wiping it down with MEK, which is pretty brutal chemical. I keep it in this small can so I'm not hauling a gallon around every time I work with it. But I like to have, and you should have, all the doors and windows out open. If you can be outside, have fans, wear gloves, eye protection, breathing protection, the whole thing, because it is a absolutely brutal but effective chemical. And what it does is when you wipe it on there, it's getting rid of the Armor All, the body oil, the old nasty sweat, in addition to opening up the pores of the leather vinyl, so it's able to receive the dye rather than just it sitting strictly on top. It's going to just have little fingers in there, in the pores where it can, obviously, to just help it hold on. It is a flexible dye. I'm using SEM products, the Firethorn Red, but you want to make sure that no matter how good the product you're spraying on is, that the surface is prepared. So going through and really getting every nook and cranny wiped down with this MEK is critical. All right, so you're going to let the MEK kind of sit for a second. You're not going to obviously dye right over it, but you're going to want to get your can out, ready, shake it up, and you're lightly going to dust it as I am here. Remember, you're not trying to cover it all in one coat. If you can do 4 coats, 5 coats even, you're going to be a lot happier with the experience of dyeing it, because you're not going to be dealing with runs, but also the finish is just going to reflect it. That time was taken. You're not going to have glossy hot spots. It's all going to be one uniform, smooth finish. So spray it, lightly dust it, let it build, wait, then come back and hit it again. It's about 10-15 minutes has passed, and I'm back at it again, lightly dusting it on about 12 inches away. Shake your can frequently. That way you're keeping that mix just right. But you can already see the color has started to become more of a red than that faded orange. Look at that. You can see where it's at on one side and what's to come for the entire car. Just going through some little odds and ends, I will tell you that every single piece of this trim around the A-pillar is going to be pulled out, and that's all going to be dyed. It just has to be. It's not the same color. Overall, things are in pretty good shape. Now, looking at the dashboard, that's obviously going to be dyed. Taping that up is important instead of pulling it out, because I'm trying to get the car done looking good. I'm not trying to rebuild the entire dash, because once you get in there, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to have 100 hours in this thing, and it's not going to be worth any more than it is right now. So taping the dashboard up is priority number 1. I'm not going to show the dyeing of it because it was a little bit crazy, and the camera kept getting knocked over because it was a pretty tight, confined space. There was a lot of plastic drop cloth everywhere, and I had to do it little by little, because even with fans going, it just, the dye was brutal in there. Went everywhere, all over me, all over the equipment, and it was quite the fiasco. But I will jump into what it looks like after the dye was put on the dashboard. The dashboard has been dyed. I put this over here because I also painted this, and I had to go to dinner and close it up. I didn't want this until it was fully hardened to get on the dashboard. I figured worst case we'd get on the tape, but didn't even do that. So passenger side is done. It's back together. I've got all of the trim, the exception of that, out. I've got to go through, and I mean that's cracked, so I'm gonna clean that up. You can kind of see it. That I'm gonna clean up and re-dye. But I got the SEM trim black because I'm going to use it quite a bit, actually. So it's obviously here on the door. It's going to be up under here in the cowl area once I get that cleaned out. So my thought is, you're gonna see this here. It's gonna be the same exact finish up in there. So that's the why behind that. And it just was, you could tell the car had been painted. And then I'm gonna have to dye up here. So we got a lot of black dye to get done. And before I put these back in, I'm gonna have to tape and spray that, which means got to drop the column down a little bit and put some tape up there, as well as some plastic drop cloth, and then obviously protect the window. I don't really care if I get dye on the metal here, but I just don't want it on the red. But get that fresh black. That's gonna look really good. So I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna start taping, and we're gonna get this done. Then we're gonna work our way back there, I think, tonight. Got to get my light hung in here, but a quick update. As you can see, we're drop cloth city. These are mini poster boards, and I've got it taped along the red ridge line. We've hit a couple more passes. Looks decent, but I'm hoping that it flattens out a little bit. So I'm gonna leave everything taped, and we're gonna see if it flattens out overnight, or if I gotta come back and hit it with one more. Looking pretty good. Cannot wait to get this interior done, man. It is going to look absolutely cool. And here we have it. The interior back together, all freshly dyed. There isn't one piece in here that has not seen the Firethorn red dye, and it is looking really, really good. Let's go check it out. With how well this interior turned out. It was one of the roughest looking parts of the car. Yes, I know the paint needs some work. We're gonna buff that back to life. But coming up on the next video, we're gonna jump into this front end. Finally, the springs are here. Gonna figure out why it's sitting so weird. I did get the rear end sitting properly on the passenger side. The driver's side is fine. I'm gonna replace the bolt and add some new bushings there just to be safe. If this is your first time on the channel, I find old Corvette project cars, I revive them, bring them back to life. They're not going to be perfect, but they're going to be better, so they can then turn around and be a project car. They're a little further on for the next owner to cruise around in and still have something to wrench in, and still have something to wrench on the weekends. This 1979 isn't going to be around forever. I'm going to get it done. Probably about another month from now, we'll be ready to go, and then we'll move on to the next Corvette C3. If you like what you see here, go and hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way. This channel's been growing like crazy, and I really do appreciate all the feedback. Excited to get this car done. We've got a lot more to do to it. I would love for you to follow me on the journey as I revive this and other old forgotten Corvettes.